Hey everybody, Icy Cat here, and thanks for joining us this week on the Siege Report. This is your weekly dose of information regarding everything happening in the game, as well as in the broader community. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, NukemDukem, who's here to introduce our first guest.
Hey guys, today we have a special guest. I am a good friend of his. He is an ESL procaster, and he is Bloodbath. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to see how we're going to continue on with today and the future of Rainbow all together.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like, it's almost towards the playoffs for the Pro League high-level competitive play, and it's just awesome seeing you guys do that. So tell us a little bit about yourself and people who aren't on the Pro League.
Sure. So my real name is Sean. I basically started playing Rainbow from Alpha back in 2015 and never put the game down. Was in through all the betas and started out wanting to know I wanted to be a competitive player in it. Rainbow was my first and has been my only competitive game I've ever played in. And then got into the Pro League during Season 2 of Year 1. We placed 4th. I was on a team called True Ambition. From there, I got the opportunity to come and cast in Poland for ESL. Spent Season 3 working alongside Panky and Emzo and Kix, and then Season 6 Invitational going into Season 4 and 5. We started becoming the lead caster. So here we are. Now it's almost the end, like you said, the end of Season 2, Year 2. And we have just 1 week of Siege left to go.
Awesome. So you used to be an ESL Pro League player, correct?
Yes.
So what's that training like just to play at a high competitive level?
Well, so for the earlier seasons of Siege, I want to say, has not been as competitive as we're seeing now. And as Year 2 has been developing more and more. But back when I was in the Pro League, I spent probably about 5 hours a day with our team. We'd spend about 2 hours doing dry runs, going through strats, going through basically different maps, different bomb sites, seeing what's viable. And then we'd turn that into scrims for about another 2 hours or so. And then I'd go on my own for about another hour or two after everything was over and just try to find more stuff and work individually on the roles that we had set up for ourselves. So for me, it was about like 5 to 6 hours a day. And we had like 1 or 2 days off a week. But ultimately, it got us 4th place. So we were happy about it.
One thing I was wondering about is being somebody that's on the Pro League, as far as just being a huge part of it, the face of it, as one of the casters for it. What are your opinions on the changes they made to it this year, in that they dropped the Xbox Pro League and shifted to only PC? Do you think that was the right call, or what do you think about how the Xbox teams that were getting ready for it, that thought there was a new year coming, like maybe how they felt?
So I'll make an analogy here before I go dive into that a little bit more. For the teams that were up and coming in the Xbox League or Xbox platform that were anticipating on going into the Pro League, to me that kind of hits home, because I feel my sister was one of those players that played softball in high school and was hoping to go to the Olympics to play softball in the Olympics. Well, 2016, I think it was, they decided to not have softball in the Olympics. So it's just like kind of a similar analysis where you're actually taking a sport away that people are working towards the future. So I kind of understand that philosophy of it and why there's a lot of, we'll call it upset Xbox players. But ultimately, I feel like the decision was not fully the decision of Ubisoft. For those that are familiar with we'll call it the prize pool and the financials, it's that the majority of the support for the Xbox was written off by Microsoft for a 1-year contract, at least to my understanding. And so Microsoft then decided to not renew that contract for Year 2, and then that would have put all the financial burden of holding 2 full Pro Leagues onto Ubisoft. So I believe the purpose and the reason that we're seeing the Pro League just stick to PC is a lot of financial reasons, as a lot of, I want to say, just consolidating reasons. I mean, how many other esports games do we see out there on multiple different platforms? I might be able to name one. I don't know many. So to have an official Pro League supported on 2 different platforms is costing millions of dollars, if not more. Which is why I kind of see it going to PC as being a very kind of a direct focus, but at the same time, I think it's kind of something that's needed to happen to help the game progress in a more direct manner.
So I'm kind of curious. Let's say if someone wants to be like a caster or involved, like being a game competitive scene, and how do they go get their foot in the door to like get where you're at, to get contacted by Ubisoft, say we want you to cast our games?
So for me, I kind of had a little different start. I never knew anything about casting, nothing about esports until about January of 2016. And I had a buddy of mine who casted some previous games, and he wanted to cast some of my scrims. So from there, I realized, what is casting? What is this commentating sort of thing? Realized that it is something that sounds like a lot of fun. Had a couple of people tell me that I could, that I might have the voice for it. Excuse me. That I might be able to do it. So I started asking people if I could spectate their scrims and commentate for it, and so on and so forth. From there, this is kind of the avenue that you can the different avenues that people can take. One, you can go the avenue that I did, which is I had a lot of contacts in the competitive Siege world, because I'd been playing in the competitive Siege world for 3-4 months at the very start, knew a lot of people, and I started asking people to get their teams together and started hosting a league. I started up my own community tournament. That was a weekly tournament where teams would play. We had 4 teams, and I would cast and commentate it. That allowed me to practice a lot of the different techniques that I'd seen on YouTube. It also allowed me live feedback in front of a real audience. And so from there, I reached out to ESL. I saw an old Reddit post back from November before the game even became fully released. And it had said, we're looking for casters for the Pro League. Here's my contact information, and reached out to him and gave him some information, gave him some clips of me casting, and then invited him to come watch me live during one of my tournaments. From there, just got into a conversation. He said, hey, you're actually decent. There's stuff that we can work on, but the foundation is there. So that's how I got into it. But some of the other avenues you could take is what a lot of people will do is they'll find the game they want to cast for, and they will find it on YouTube. They'll find just scrims. They'll find spectated games. Might be a previous Pro League match, and they'll mute the sound on it, and they will just voice over on top of it, and that can be their demo. The way that I tend to get a lot of practice is by 2 different ways. One, I review my own VODs, because you don't necessarily know how much you repeat words or repeat phrases until you listen to yourself. And the second is by watching some of the high-level professional casters, whether it be for another esports game or your own esports game that you're trying to get into. For me, I remember that one of the phrases I used to always say when I first started out was, he got knocked out. That was the phrase when someone got killed. And so if there was a trade back and forth, 3-4 trades in a row, I'd say, player knocked out player, player knocked out player. And I realized my chat, it was just going TK every single time. Or sorry, KO. And I was like, I asked him after the games, I was like, why are you typing in KO into the channel? He says, because you always say knockout. And it was kind of one of those moments where you're just like, oh, snap, you're right. You don't realize it until you go back into the VOD and you realize and you listen to yourself. So that's kind of how most people will get their foot in the door, is they'll either cast over a YouTube video or some other VOD, or they'll just go out, start their own league, start their own forum, their own medium to have an area to cast.
Okay, real quick question on that. So did Ubisoft contact you after they saw you casting your videos, or you reached out and showed them some of your videos?
So I think there's a little distinction I want to make first, is that Ubisoft does not actually run the Pro League. Okay. Ubisoft hires ESL. ESL is a separate company. And so Ubisoft is basically contracting ESL to put on this Pro League. So I reached out to ESL, and that's who I'm employed by. But what I did, I reached out to them. I sent an email to my contact, to the person I saw the Reddit post from, and sent him, I think, about 4 clips, about 2 minutes each, sent it to him, and invited him to come to my stream and watch more. They did a little bit of lurking, and I saw him there on the viewer list. I knew he was lurking around in channel. From there, then he reached out to me after he got some more footage of me, and we started the conversation up from there.
So one thing we've been asking all the guests that have been on the show so far is, as one of the movers and shakers that have kind of influenced the Siege community and watched the game grow, as you said, involved since the alpha test originally. Now that we're in Operation Health, this is this time of change for the game and growth, but also laying the foundations and kind of righting some wrongs that maybe have kind of crept up in the system so far to this. What do you think of the way Operation Health has been going?
So I feel like at the start, Operation Health seemed like the golden nugget. It seemed like something that the game needed, and I still think it's what the game needs. But I think there's a little bit of a misconfusion or miscommunication as to what Operation Health is. To me, and my understanding of what Operation Health is that it's supposed to be the underlying, the infrastructure level changes, whether it be with the engine, whether it be with the server, not necessarily direct game development. They're basically setting themselves up in these 3 months to then allow for more agile, more focused, and more efficient changes to go on with the game. In that regards, we've seen a lot of different changes. We've had multiple downtimes where it's been 4 or 5, sometimes longer hours of downtime, and that's because they're working on the servers. They literally need to power the servers off and update them, run diagnostics, and do whatever they need to do to enhance them. In that regards, I think they've been fairly successful. What I think has been kind of undercommunicated or underutilized in the sense of the general community has been the fact that it's not as transparent. Yes, we're saying maintenance is going on, but I don't think people realize what that means and what's actually being done. The transparency could be a little bit better, I feel like, for Operation Health. And in general, I still think that Operation Health has a little bit of ways to go before we can call it a full success.
Mm-hmm. So what is currently happening now at Siege is alpha packs are finally out on both consoles. And apparently when they came out, it's causing a little server issue where there's a flood of people trying to open alpha packs to play, and like the server's degradation. So I believe IcyCat, you may had a little lag on Xbox the other day, right?
Yeah, I was experiencing some lag over on that side of things. I don't know if that could be attributed directly to the alpha packs on Xbox, or if that was just like, the hub I was connecting to had a lot of traffic, but I was definitely noticing that in between each round of a match, it would be like we were sitting there for a minute, like, okay, let's launch. But I can't speak to what the cause of that was.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the cause today was on the PS4 when Alpha Packs came out. After like 10 minutes of opening it, no one could play casual. Everyone's like waiting 15 minutes, and then like a couple of minutes later, it's like, yeah, we're having server degradation because of launch of Alpha Packs. And what's funny is like I get a lot of comments like, how come the Alpha Packs are not out for my console? People don't know that you just have to restart the client, because Alpha Packs were actually in the patch, the last patch for a couple of weeks now, and Ubisoft just had to flip a switch for it to go live. So it's really interesting that people thought there was going to be some massive file update for it.
Yeah, no, like you had said, they were already kind of preloaded, and it was just a matter of restarting the client once Ubisoft flipped that switch. I had people coming into my channel asking me, hey, have you opened up any packs? And I'm like, 2 hours ago, I had over 400,000 renown. Now I've got 30,000. Like, you do the math. Where did it all go? But no, I think the alpha packs are something that a lot of people have been looking forward to. To me, since I've been playing the game for so long, it's kind of like I have almost every single skin out there that is in the alpha pack. So like people are saying, yeah, it's all these duplicates. Like I think I spent somewhere in the neighborhood of like 300,000 renown, and I think I got about 90,000 renown back from that, just from duplicates. And people originally were asking me, is that a bug? You keep getting duplicates. I'm like, no, I have all these skins. Like, tell me to go to an operator I've never really played. Capcan. Okay, guess what? I have like 90% of the skins for Capcan. Yeah. So it's just something funny that people just need to experience for themselves, we'll say.
Okay, real quick, just a quick comment on this. What are you guys getting any luck from alpha packs? I'm not like having the worst luck in the world opening anything and getting anything special.
I don't want to jinx myself, but I have had quite the luck. I've picked up a couple of legendary.
Now on opening my packs for me.
No, I'd gotten I think maybe about 4 or 5 legendaries and a numerous amount of epics and some rares. But again, most of them are skins I already have. I think like the legendaries are the ones I haven't, but other than that, it's just like, oh hey, epic, yes. 4,000 renown.
Yeah. Black Ice, duplicate.
Yeah.
For as rare as Black Ice was supposed to be, there are tons of reports of people getting those.
Yep.
Except
No,
me. Except me. Except.
I've gotten it on the Spetsnaz beanbag launcher. I've gotten it on the R4C. I've gotten it on some pistols. But again, I was around during Black Ice, and so I already picked up the skin. I already had it, and it to me is just like, oh, people want that skin? Cool. I duplicate. Just duplicate. That's all it is.
Self-effects are, of course, kind of the newest thing that Operation Health has given us, along with the one-step matchmaking. You're talking a lot about the infrastructure and the foundation of things that this period of time was going to be giving us. And one thing that came out today was the dev blog, and I should clarify, today being the day we are recording the show, not necessarily the day that you're viewing it. But so when the dev blog came out, it talked about they were working on changes to maps as far as textures, meshes, streamlining them, lighting improvements being probably the most influential of those changes. And so there's some things going on there. Do you think that's something that is a good area for them to focus on right now?
I think so. At least that's one area. I mean, lighting has always been a big point of contention for many players in Siege. You'll see a lot of players, a lot of the top teams, a lot of the top competitive players play in the lowest settings because that will reduce the chance of having a lot of lighting and just texture issues. But I think what you're referring to here when you were talking about the map textures and the meshes, they talked about how they're first focusing on Cafe. And that's a map that, I mean, just thinking about the Pro League, is a map that we've seen a lot of competitive play on. And so trying to rework that map, I'm actually really interested to see how that's going to affect the pick rate of that map. Are people going to jump to it and say, yes, this map is gorgeous now, we can actually play to the style we want? Or are they going to say, it's a little bit out of our league now, or not out of our league, but a little bit, we'll call it different, and we're not as comfortable on that map anymore. So I'm actually really curious.
Is it just like small model changes, just to kind of like make the texture look a little nicer and not as much memory usage on the stuff? So does that really change a pro player like wanting to pick a map?
So the lighting difference is across all maps, but the texture differences, just looking at the pictures that they threw out in the blog post, to me, it could lend to having more beneficial or more detrimental hiding spots. For example, if you're a Jaeger with X color helmet, and you might find a spot that you can sit in where that helmet kind of blends in, looks like a notebook on a table or whatever it could be. Now that's going to look a little bit different. And going prone under a table or a couch or however it may be could lend its way to be in your favor or be less in your favor. But as you were saying, the main changes they're doing with these textures and meshes is for memory usage and memory utilization. And I'll actually throw a quote here that they put in the dev blog. It was the technical director, Oliver, who said this. It was said, imagine we have a box and we filled it to capacity. It's difficult to improve on items that you've already put into the box when there isn't any space. With Operation Health, we are rearranging the contents of the box to give us more room to work. So that's what they're basically doing. They're not necessarily changing the items in the map. So you're still going to have the poinsettias. You're still going to have the windows, the shelves, the Christmas trees. You're still going to have all that in the exact same spot, but the textures are going to look different to help out with the memory utilization.
I'm kind of curious, like, how does a developer? I know none of us developer, like, you're fixing the texture to make it look better, but it takes up less memory for it. And does that mean the map loading times will be a lot quicker since it requires less memory to load?
That's one potential benefit. Basically, I can kind of correlate it to some web design that I used to do. Is if you wanted to create a background image or a background texture for your web page, you could create a 1920 by 1080 picture and just throw it up there, or you could create a 1 pixel by 1 pixel image and have that repeat itself. Now, if you do a 1920 by 1080 image onto your screen, that's going to take a lot longer to load than loading a 1 by 1 pixel and repeating it X number of 10,000 times, or however many times it would take to repeat it to a full 1920 by 1080. Or sorry, 1920 by 1080. So I think that's some of the tricks and mechanics that they're working on here, is finding out what textures can we repeat in small fashions. So that it's not, if you're looking at a Christmas tree, the whole Christmas tree isn't loading. All the green might be a 5x5 pixel or whatever it may be. So the textures will still look very nice, but the way that they're delivered is going to be more efficient.
While we're talking about textures, I think the other, what I would argue is even bigger, though you do bring some interesting perspectives to why the textures themselves might be have an impact on the gameplay, but with the lighting reduction for looking inside or outside looking in, whichever way you're doing it, I mean, that's really going to change the meta as far as peeking or sitting on a
Definitely.
window where maybe you wouldn't have been able to see as much before, but now you can kind of camp there all day and see in clearly. How do you think that, not only for Pro League, but just in the general population of the game, how is that going to change things?
Honestly, I feel like that's going to make everyone happy. And I say that because I don't know exactly how it's going to change, whether or not we're going to see more or less repelling, however it may be, because it's very variant, on the map. Some maps you stay inside and you're looking into God's eyes once you open up the window. But on the flip side, on the other turn, you might be outside looking in and it's pitch black, and you might think like an EMP grenade just went off and all the lights are down. So it's very variant on the map. But what I think is going to happen is it's going to bring everyone to a more consistent stance. So you're going to know, okay, here's someone on a window. I'm going to have this view on him. He's going to have this view on me. I don't know how it's going to impact the play in general, but I feel like the community will be accepting of it in a positive fashion if it goes the way that they're portraying it here in the dev blog.
So you mentioned that you have 1 week left of the Pro League, I believe, group match before you guys go in playoffs. So we already have some teams that I believe are making playoffs. Can you tell us like what teams are going in and the whole bracket structure of the finals coming up?
Yeah, so we currently we know 7 out of the 8 teams that have made it to LAN. We know all 3 North American teams, which is Excellence Gaming, it is Vertical Gaming, and it's also Elevate GG.
And they were former console players, right?
Elevate GG, yes, they were full console players through all of year 1. They even took first place in the 6th Invitational, and then after the 6th Invitational, that was kind of the last hoorah, we'll call it, for the Xbox division. And they realized, hey, we love Siege so much, we want to continue playing at this high level competitive play. We're going to transition over to PC, and they ultimately went to LAN their first season, switching over to PC. So I think in the eyes of many, they are they're considered a Pro League team on PC now, not just their Xbox transitioned over to PC. They're legitimately a PC team now because this is their second straight LAN that they've made it to. Talking about Latin America, we have BRK Esports as well as Santos Dexterity, or Team Font as they were previously known, or they're now known as Team Font, previously known as Santos Dexterity. Both of those teams have made it to LAN from the Latin American scene. Team Font made it to the 6th Invitational. That was the team from Latin America known as Santos Dexterity at the time. BRK Esports made it to Season 1 LAN here in Katowice, Poland, and they were formerly known as Black Dragons. They've since picked up a different organization, and they're now known as BRK Esports. Both of those teams made it. And then from the European division, we have Penta, who placed first in Group A, and also ENCE Esports, which formerly was known as Sisu. Sisu's been around since the very start of Pro League, as well as Penta. But they picked up a new organization this season. They're now called ENCE Esports, and they placed first in the Group B division. So they have both made it through the playoffs. And the last team that we're looking to fill the final 8th spot is either going to be Millennium or it's going to be Supremacy. Both of those teams are going to go fight in the second round of the playoffs tomorrow, actually, for week number 7 of the European Pro League.
Now, of all those teams, like, has there been huge surprises that that like they made a huge comeback that made it into the playoffs, or anything that like strats that you haven't seen that just blew your mind as a caster?
So I think I'll give the most improved award to Excellence Gaming, which is part of the North American seed or North American League. They last season, for those that were paying attention to season 1 of year 2, they were known as a team called Most Wanted, and they had placed 5th and 6th alongside of Continuum. They did an okay job last year. They had some players make a name for themselves, such as my man, and now they come out of the blue and they're here back in the Pro League year 2, taking out Flipside, taking out Vertical Gaming, taking out Continuum, even Elevate GG. So they've basically taken out every single Titan known to the North American League scene. And so with that, with Excellence coming out on top, if I recall correctly, I'm actually double guessing myself now if Excellence beat out VG on the week. I think they did, but ultimately Excellence kind of takes the most improved, I'd say, and the eye opener from my perspective.
Awesome. Do you have any cool announcement that's coming up in the Gamescom? What are you guys doing over there?
So Gamescom is basically going to be the event, or the venue, we'll say, for the Rainbow Six Season 2 LAN event. And I don't have too much information to divulge now on it, but basically the games are going to take place on the 25th and 26th of it's basically a Friday, Saturday of Gamescom. That is basically going to be our 2-day long event. Generally speaking, like I said, I don't have a set schedule, but generally speaking, during our LAN events, if it's been a 2-day event, the quarterfinals, all 4 quarterfinals will be on day 1, and then day 2 will be the semifinals followed by the grand final. So I think it's safe to say that the structure will be very similar to that. As for times and who's playing who, we don't have that just yet.
Okay. What about any seats or any like giveaways or any announcement that's coming up for it?
Yeah, so seating, as you just mentioned, we want to give the Pro League teams, as well as everyone else, time to figure out who's going to be playing who. What are the seeds going to be? And so because we have 7 out of the 8 teams, we have to wait for that eighth team to be chosen, or be we'll see seen as the victor, we'll say. And so after the European Pro League matchup tomorrow night, which is Thursday the 27th, I think it is, during that stream, but at the very end of the stream for the Pro League broadcast, we're going to be actually manually picking the seeds and selecting the seeds for each of the teams to go into LAN. So we're basically, Kix and I are going to be on stream, and we're going to manually choose. We're going to go through all the requirements, all the structure of how the LAN will be in regards to the bracket structure and the seating structure, and we will literally be picking out names for the seats in a random and very transparent fashion.
So one of the things that we've been talking about too is with the growth of the game overall, and I believe it was a few weeks ago even that there was an article that it came out and talked about like how there's like 20 million players in the game now, and it's just getting bigger all the time. With the growth of the game and with the changes that have come to Pro League and with the things that Operation Health has done to kind of lay the groundwork and expand for the future, we've also seen some changes on the development team too, in that we've gotten a new community manager and a new community developer. So joining Ubi Justin is now Ubi Gabe on the dev side of things, and then on the CM side with Epi, we also now have Matt Shacha, who was formerly of both Ghost Recon and then Division when he came to Ubisoft. So we're seeing some big growth there. What do you think that portends for kind of like growing the community and adding these members to the community team?
I think adding and increasing the general community, whether it be a community manager, community dev, however it may be seen, I think is a very good thing for Siege. I also think it kind of sheds some light onto how Ubisoft is looking at Siege and investing in resources towards Siege. I mean, they're investing in not only the time and resources and financial resources to basically put on Operation Health. They're also seeing this as an opportunity to increase their human resources into the development of the game here. As we just said, we've got new devs and managers for the community. And taking that a little bit further, we're seeing financial investment in the prize pool of the Pro League. I mean, there's only been one season so far that the prize will continually increased, and that has been this season, season 2. But moving in forward, next season for season 3 of year 2, we're going to have, I think, $275,000 as the prize pool, And then the Six Invitational to happen in next February 2018, is going to be $500,000. Now, I don't know how many people are going to recall the prize pool from season 1, year 1, but I believe that was $75,000, if not $50,000 total for all the teams playing. So going from a $75,000 prize pool from the first season to about 2 years later, saying, hey, we're now investing $500,000 in a single event, that is a skyrocket high amount that I'm really excited to be a part of.
I find two ways looking at this. I'll be like, finally, Epi's gonna get help where everyone's not gonna tag Epi. He's like, what's your response to this, Epi? And like, it's gonna be like, he's getting no longer is like that sent to the team meme every single time for a response. So I think that's super funny. But I'm kind of curious. This is a different question than new community manager. But what do you think pro players react? Well, we're gonna this upcoming next season. We're gonna have 2 Hong Kong operators and now 1 Polish operator. Is it gonna really change from all the different seasons having 3 operators this time?
I think it's definitely going to change and stir some stuff up. Reason I say that is because now we're going to have an imbalance in the number of operators on each side. We're only getting 1 Polish operator, which means either the attackers or defenders. It's not been revealed yet as to what side that third operator is going to be placed on. But that will throw an imbalance. And ultimately, while there will be an imbalance, it's going to all depend on how is that person, how is that player, how's that operator going to fit into the meta, or how is the meta going to evolve with that operator. But I think having that extra operator on your team, you're now going to have 2 brand new ops that could potentially drastically increase or influence the meta. And so from a pro league standpoint, if you now have an attacker, you now have 2 new attackers, we'll say, hypothetically speaking, of course, you have 2 new attackers, that could just like throw out your entire playbook, and you need to create 2 new, basically a brand new playbook with 10 different strats for a single map with these 2 non-operators. That's what it could be. So it could definitely stir up the pro league more than just what previous seasons had, where you've only had the introduction of 1 new operator. I think it's that third operator that's going to create a definite imbalance and potential, we'll call it curveball into the meta of the pro league.
I think it's going to be a very exciting thing to see, as soon as we come into this new season, just how that's going to shake everything up. And it's just going to be really interesting to watch, especially after so long of a drought that we've had. So, but yeah.
I mean, I still get people trying to say, hey, when are the Hong Kong operators coming out? I'm like,
Bloodbath, you know this
3 months from now.
Please leak NDA information, man. Nukem, you know exactly what they are. Leak it.
No, I still get people asking me about it, and I'm like, look, I was under the same impression you guys were, that we were going to get Hong Kong ops at the end of season 1 and into season 2, and I knew at the same time the community did, the public did, about Operation Health. So
that was shocking everyone. No one knew about that one.
No one knew about it. It was I want to say the best kept secret Ubisoft has ever had. No leaks about that one. But no, so I'll get a lot of questions because I am kind of one of the faces of Siege Pro League. A lot of people assume that I'm part of Ubisoft, that I have these insider secrets, and I don't. I have very little. I do have some knowledge of some of the stuff going on behind the scenes, but not as much as people tend to think. And so asking what are the new operators going to be? What are the utilities? What's going to be the Polish operator? Attack, defense, female, male? What's it going to be? I couldn't tell you. I can make speculations just as much as the next person, but I don't have any kind of definitive answer.
People might not like that.
I know, right?
Anyways, it was awesome to have you on this show, Bloodbath, this week, and thanks to my co-host Icy Cat. We're gonna change up the format a little bit, so if you guys have any suggestions of how we can improve the Siege report, if you guys have any community members that you want to see on, just have them reach out to them, whether through Twitter or message them somehow and tell them to contact me, and we'll try to get them on the show. So just leave that feedback in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys again next week. Bye.